All right, everybody, so today we're going to be creating our oil pastel landscapes inspired by Georgia O'Keeffe. So you're going to need a sheet of newsprint, a sheet of heavyweight white drawing paper, a box of oil pastels, a toothpick, Q-tips, a tissue, and your pencil. So we're going to start off by setting up our space with our newsprint underneath to catch any extra oil pastel. It's a little messy, so we'll want to be keeping our tables clean with that. First thing that you need to do is make sure that on the back of your paper you have your name, your class code, the date, and the title of the project, which is Drawing Distance. Once you have that labeled, you can flip it over, and you are going to be creating a light undersketch of your scene. Now don't forget, the scene needs to have a foreground, midground, and background, just as we talked about. That's how we're demonstrating space in this project. So you need to make sure that there are 3 distinct layers of your foreground, midground, background. Now we're adding 3 values, our darkest, our middle, and our lightest values. Now we want our darkest values to be on the left, middle in the middle, and lightest in the right. That will make it look like the light is coming from the right side of the page. It's hitting that first right spot, and then it gets darker as it goes along. That will make it look more realistic. So we're gonna start off with our darkest darks, our shadows, step 2, on the left-hand side. We're going to start at the top of our page and move down so we don't smudge.
Hey, no.
So I'm going to start at the top of my page. I'm going to be making a light blue sky in the background and then move down. So I have this oil pastel. It needs to have the paper ripped off, just so there's somewhere to grab onto. And I'm going to very lightly, with barely any pressure at all, I'm going to start shading in my sky. Then I'm going to go in with my white, which already has a little pastel, so I'm going to be wiping it off on my tissue just to make sure I don't contaminate that blue with any other extra colors. I'm going to go in nice and hard to blend that blue into the white. Now if you're like me and you've been pushing down really hard, you're definitely going to have little oil pastel shavings. Be careful though, you don't want to wipe them off your page because it will smudge. You're going to need to tap them off like that. Now I'm going to go in with my darkest dark into my mountains. I want my edges, outer edges on the left, to be dark. So now that I have my darkest values put in here, I'm going to go ahead and plan out what colors I'm using for my middle and lightest. So my middle value on the top up here, I'm going to be using a peach color, and for the lightest highlights, I'm using a white. For my purple mountains here, my middle color is going to be a pink, and my lightest highlight will be a white. And for my green, I want it to be the lightest possible. So my dark is a quite light color. My medium is going to be a yellow, and my highlight is a white. So after you have your values in here, you're going to be adding the middle layers. With lighter colors like white and yellow especially, you are very likely to have other colors smushed in, so make sure that you clean them off with a tissue. A nice hard little rub should do it. Now I'm going in with my lightest lights. This is where a lot of the blending happens. Now, if you've gone through and you've blended and you didn't fully clean off some of your oil pastels, you will notice that you'll have streaks of other colors. You can always clean that up by adding another color on top to kind of hide it a little bit. The problem with oil pastels is you cannot erase them. You can only layer more oil pastels on top. So now I'm going to go in with my Q-tip and I'm going to start smudging and blending just a little bit more. Now if you're done going through and blending, you might want to go back in to redefine some of those darker colors. We've done our blending, we've blended our values from the darkest side to the lightest side. Now we get to add some texture. Now I am not going to add texture in my mountains because I don't want you to be able to see the texture of my mountains. I'm going for that atmospheric perspective. I want the detail to be up front, maybe a little bit in the middle. So I'm going to go in with a darker shade and I'm going to add some texture. Forget, even in the foreground, your texture gets smaller as it gets closer to the middle ground. I can also add texture by using my toothpick to scratch away some of the oil pastel and leave the color underneath. That technique is called sgraffito. Now I have my landscape. I started with my undersketch, then I added my darkest values, middle values, lightest values, blending, and details to finish it off. Make sure you tap it one last time before handing it in so it doesn't get smudged. And you are going to store this when you hand it in between two pieces of newsprint so that it doesn't get smudged against anyone else's artwork. Happy oil pasteling!